boys. Hey, Roland.
Yeehaw! Dan Posey and Roland Hannell were best friends. Tight since university, they shared a common passion, the great outdoors.
Dan was the gentleman explorer because he was outfitted as you'd expect the explorers of old, with the little leather pouch for the Swiss Army knife and the gentleman hat.
On Dan's last adventure to the wilds of northern Labrador, he had a new partner, his girlfriend Sue.
How about that, Sue?
It's amazing.
We're sitting in our tent, just going over the map, just to, finalize our plans for tomorrow. Tomorrow is our big summit bid for Mount d'Iberville.
They were supposed to come out on the 22nd, fly out on the 22nd of August last year, and they didn't make the plane.
They didn't come home.
The authorities searched for weeks, but winter had wrapped itself around the mountain.
That night, the winds just stayed and the rain stayed, and it was the most terrifying night of my life.
They found Dan and Sue's tent, but no sign of them.
You tell me my son is dead. Should I believe you? You didn't see him die. I didn't see him die.
No one did know then where Dan and Sue were and what had happened to them. No one knew. And that meant going up there and trying to find them.
Hello and welcome to Land and Sea. I'm Tom Murphy. The wilderness, for a certain kind of person, it's always provided a powerful draw. The thrill of survival, the beauty and simplicity of isolation. Today, the heartbreaking story of friendship, dedication, and loss. It's set in the wildest corner of Atlantic Canada, the Torngat Mountains. They form the jagged border that separates northern Labrador from Quebec. In Inuktitut, Torngat means land of the spirits, not all of them benevolent. The explorer John Cabot called this the land that God created for Cain. Once higher than the Himalayas, one of the oldest ranges in the world, and yet they are little known and rarely traveled. And so for Dan Posey and Susan Barnes, the Torngats beckoned. They lived and worked in Mississauga, Ontario, but spent few weekends there. Whenever they could, they fled the city.
This is a prep work of the canoe, formerly named Thor's Hammer. It's an old-time tripper, and Danielle and my father are getting it all ready for our awesome adventure to the Torngats.
They yearned to climb the tallest mountain in the range. A mountain with two names. In Quebec, it's d'Iberville. In Labrador, it's called Cobvik. The border runs right over its peak. As they embarked, they stopped in on Roland Hannell. Friends, it was the last time he'd see them alive.
Would have wished him luck on his trip. Good luck to you, buddy. See you in a couple of weeks. And then I watched them drive away.
They drove northeast as far as the road would take them. From Goose Bay, they flew to Nain, the northernmost village in Labrador.
Hi, here we are in Nain. We came to see our boat charter. So we walked around town a bit and we finally found the boat charter person, and his name's Henry Webb. Now Henry was supposed to take us up, but turns out Henry already left.
Hopefully at 4.
While Dan and Sue struggled to find new passage to the Torngats, another pair of mountain climbers arrived in Nain.
We were trapped in this small town of Nain together for 3 days or so, trying to get transportation further north, and really enjoyed their company immensely. We were in the one hotel in town and eating together in the one restaurant in town, and really got along well with them. They were, I guess, our type of people.
Like Dan and Sue, Jim and Catherine Rickard wanted to climb Mount Cobvik. They pooled their money and hired a plane to take them there. It was their first glimpse of the mountain, 5,000 feet at its peak. To summit, you must traverse one of 2 knife-edged ridges. It could be dangerous climbing, but as their plane touched down on a dry riverbed nearby, everybody was excited.
We were just all so ecstatic that we were getting there. We were just all so incredibly happy. You know, it had taken so long and so much effort.
They camped together that night, but parted ways the next morning. Dan and Sue planned to approach from the south.
River, bed all the way up to the mountain in the very back, the one with the notch.
The Rickards planned to approach from the south. The morning the Rickards made their summit attempt, the weather was bad and getting worse. The further up they climbed, the worse the conditions. Their GPS had failed. Just a few hundred meters from the summit, they made the excruciating decision to turn around.
The winds just started picking up, so they were so strong, and you would either hear one coming or you'd see it coming up off the glacier, swirling up all this snow, and you would just hold onto a rock because it would blow you over.
The next day, Jim and Catherine Rickard headed for the coast. Cobvick's Peak was still in the clouds. Little did they know they were the last people to see Dan Posey and Sue Barnes alive. 2 weeks later, their parents reported the couple missing. The authorities mounted 3 separate searches. At the base of the mountain, they found Dan and Sue's tent. Part of the way up, Sue's harness. High winds and clouds kept them from the summit itself.
Well, good night, and tomorrow's the big day, so hopefully we'll have some good news.
Excellent news, yeah, hopefully.
3 weeks later, the couple was declared lost. Roland Hannell volunteered to fly to Goose Bay. Dan and Sue's truck was still there, and he wanted to bring it back home to the families.
You're riding in the truck that your dead buddy owned. The sheer magnitude of it hits you that these 2 good people are done, you know, they're gone.
You know they're dead? You know, your mind is telling you they're dead, but your heart didn't see them died. And your heart is going to stay open.
You know, I saw how Dan and Sue's families reacted and how terrible this has been for them. That kind of despair, it compelled me to go up there.
But since the Torngats were wrapped again in winter, Hannell would have to wait a full year. So in every spare moment, he prepared for his expedition. He trained in search and rescue techniques. Hannell helped organize a team of 19 volunteers.
Now, as you're looking at some of these photos, keep in mind that these offer some great clues as to the type of clothing and equipment they're going to be having up there.
Jim and Catherine Rickard were among the first to sign up. Hannell threw himself into the details of the expedition, refusing to let his emotions take over.
I was thinking that, you know, if I do this and focus on it, the grief won't ever catch up with me, and I just kind of stay ahead of it.
Kuujjuaq in northern Quebec. Almost exactly a year since Dan and Sue went missing. Hannell and his team are finally getting their chance to do what the authorities couldn't: find them.
It's the furthest, remotest place I've ever been to. And we're there looking for the bodies of 2 good friends of mine. The task was grim.
As they approach the mountain, the clouds are descending. Bad weather repelled searchers last year. Could it do the same now?
We won't be able to do much survey.
We won't be able to get into it at all. Okay.
It's bitter cold, it's raining, it's dark. We're just thinking, you know, we're not even all the way there yet. When that last plane took off, it, you know, suddenly that was your link to the outside world and it was gone. Very much felt like we were a bit out of our league here.
Coming up, Roland Hannell begins his search, determined to unlock the mystery of his friend's disappearance. Roland Hannell is leading an expedition deep into the Torngat Mountains in northern Labrador. He's trying to find his best friends who went missing here the year before.
Basically it. We'll keep our radios on. Just you and I guess, Jim.
Jim and Catherine Rickard will hike to the north side of the mountain. They'll take half the team with them.
Right now, everybody thinks of all these different possibilities and what happened and how were their last moments. But if you find the remains, it gives you kind of one story to hold on to. I think that's what gives you closure.
Hannell will lead the others. They'll hike to the south side, where Sue Burns and Dan Posey's base camp had been found. When you're this far north, even a twisted ankle can carry serious consequences. For Hannell, the emotional risks are just as high as the physical.
And if you can't quite make it out, the white part down there is a shoe and someone's jeans, socks. That's the lower leg, knee up to the hip, okay? And that's an animal that did that.
Well, you would imagine what a mangled body might look like. You would imagine what it would be like to find, you know, just a leg, or, you know, after it had been torn apart by animals.
North team, there is a black bear moving up the valley.
None of us imagine our great friends and family deteriorating, but you try to picture it quickly so that if you ever do see it, it doesn't shock you as much.
5% clear ground, or even 99% clear ground.
A bit of good news. A team from Parks Canada has agreed to join the search. So long as the weather holds, they'll bring in their chopper, but only for 2 days. As they get close to the mountain, Roland finds something. It's Dan and Sue's camping equipment.
No question, this is theirs.
You know, like two toothbrushes, whatever, toothpaste.
You know, going through his things like that, all their personal stuff, their toothbrushes, you know, it made it so real.
The next morning, Hannell heads for the mountain itself. As he crests one of its ridges, he gets his first look at the summit.
I was surprised by the sheer cliffs. I was surprised by the terrible drop-offs. I was surprised at the sheer magnitude of the mountain.
It's where Dan and Sue yearned to reach, and it's where they'll most likely be found. For the first time in a year, a helicopter approaches the mountain. The park's rescue team has arrived. They've found a body. They're coming to Hannell to see if he can identify it.
Right, yeah. Did you find that in? Well, I'm not exactly sure. That's why I wanted to talk to you. It's a green jacket. That's Dan.
You've had a year to prepare yourself that it's going to happen. You have looked forward to finding him. It was actually a relief.
Dan Posey's body is found alone. Sue Burns' remains are still out there somewhere. Coming up, the searchers find a note. Was it left by Sue? Dan Posey has been found, but his girlfriend Sue Burns is still missing. Roland Hannell and the other searchers are back on the mountain. A brief moment of hope when some of the climbers find what looks like a note.
The title on the top of this says Aspirations.
It's a poem, but there's no indication it was left by his friends. On the other side of the mountain, the helicopter pilot has spotted something else. It's close to the spot where Sue's climbing harness was found. It's also the very spot where Jim and Catherine Rickard decided to turn around the year before.
They found Sue.
They did? Right here?
They're rigging a sling to recover her.
The Rickards can't help wondering if Sue had already fallen by the time they reached this spot, if somehow they could have helped.
There's no way you could have known.
It's so hard though, you know?
Just to confirm, you told Roland? Yes. Okay, I've spoken.
There's huge comfort that comes from knowing that at least the bodies are together. It was a huge relief to hear that. You break down and you just let it all come out.
But Roland Hannell keeps climbing. He wants to see what his friends saw in their final hours, walk where they walked.
So this is where Dan was found. The Parks Canada put the bottle here to mark the spot. They said the rope actually is
Near Dan Posey's body, the rangers found his rope. They also found a video and stills camera. More clues about what happened. These images were taken on the day of their final ascent.
Hello from the base of Mount Calvik and Mont d'Iberville. Weather's not really cooperating, as you can see. This is classic mountaineering weather, I guess. We're about to make our summit attempt here. It's snowing pretty heavily at times, wind is pretty...
And then the video ends. The rest of the tape had been destroyed by the weather, but their stills camera kept working, and they took these shots of themselves at the summit. Nobody will ever know for sure what happened next. Most likely, Dan was hurt here, shortly after they started their descent, immobilized. So alone, Sue made for the other side of the mountain, where the Rickards were camped. She made her way across this ridge, and then she fell off this plateau, perhaps blown over by the wind.
Dan and Sue were doing this in a snowstorm, blizzard, high winds. I'm not even comfortable with where we are now on good weather, so there must have been some pretty smooth climbing going on here, or sheer desperation. I'm not sure which. There are a lot of notes in here. I've got one. Daniel Posey, Susan Barnes, in a wicked snowstorm, exclamation mark. That's all it says.
Somehow you hoped for miracles, didn't you? Of course, you have to accept the truth. It wasn't until they found the bodies that all the doors were closed, though.
My son followed his dream. He dreamed about that mountain, he did it. Something happens, but he's alive. He's alive in my heart. He's alive with me.
It still hurts, I guess, but it's not, it doesn't cause you to break down and cry as much. I feel that hole, you know, every day.
The Torngats were recently declared a national park. Roland Hannell hopes the story of Dan Posey and Sue Burns will inspire other adventurers to come here. But he also hopes it serves as a cautionary tale.
If Dan was here now, I'd call him a dumbass. That's what he used to call me all the time. But yeah, I would try to rattle some sense into him and try to get him to turn around next time when the weather goes bad.